Welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be getting a stuck bottom bracket cup out of a frame. This is the bike they took to a shop. The shop couldn't get out, so they recommended me. They thought it was sealed, mechanically welded in there. And sometimes the metal will corrode or rust together and won't come out. But this is a chrome cup. And the other side looks clean. It's greasy, but maybe that's because they've been spraying a bunch of penetrating oil in. Also sketchy for lighting on fire. Also, it's a completely built bike. Other than the cranks being off, this part's all here. If I torch it, it's going to destroy all the paint, it's going to light these stickers on fire, it's going to damage cables, and I have to do hundreds of dollars of disassembly. It'll be $300 or $400 to disassemble this thing, extract that cup, and then put it all back together, and you're still going to need paint and stickers and all that. So I told them, the shop said they spent 2.5 hours, couldn't get this out. I, like a dum-dum, looked at it, it was like, oh, the cup's out a couple of threads more than it should be. It looks like maybe they got it loose, and there could be some debris and it could gall and freeze. So I put a tool on it. It's the one of the little cups with just the holes, it doesn't have any flats. So I put a tool on it, and a breaker bar, and immediately broke the pin on my tool. So it's definitely in tight. There are no flats. I have an amazing Zog tool, so if it had flats on the other side, it's usually stuck. This will fit on the flats, you can hammer it, but if it's way too big, so I can't even cut flats in, this tool still won't fit. I also have the old Campy tool that like sticks on those flats and has a big thing and it bolts through when you try and twist. Also won't fit. Maybe I could cut flats and cut some random chunks of metal and put them in there to take up the space. Honestly, I might grind all the face off of this and use electric welding, a MIG welder on here, and that might get the cup real hot and break it loose. Weld the tool on there. I do have this EVT stuck cup removal tool. I have never had any luck with it. People swear it works. I'm going to give it a try first. You sort of bolt it in and it pinches that cup, and then you can turn it and try and get this thing to turn. Because it's out a couple of threads. I really think they might have got it out and galled it. Got some rust or some debris in there and galled it. And maybe not. Maybe it's just always been that way. This doesn't work. I'm going to go to the grinder and I'm going to come in here and try and cut a couple of flat spots. Then maybe I can get a big giant wrench on there and clamp it in. Maybe get it to turn. Because if we can get it to move at all, we can probably get it out. And if that doesn't work, then we get crazy. This is a nice thick steel cup. And cut this face off. We can come in here and cut down into the threads and hope we don't get to the threads. Then we can take a chisel and a hammer and try and knock out a wedge. If we knock out a wedge, this thing can't be too big anymore. We can squeeze it with pliers and make it a size smaller. If it's a size smaller, it can't be stuck. And then we should be able to spin it out. Removal by destruction, we call it. So let's try some stuff. The seat post is in way too low, so I do have it clamped on the seat too, but it's on the posts inside there. It shouldn't hurt anything. It's clamped tight, but not too tight. We'll see if we can get this thing to move, not just the stand slipping or doing any real damage to the frame. I've got some stuck bottom brackets out where I watched that whole frame flex like inches and not damage. It's old Italian track bikes and stuff. It's usually Italian stuff that sticks. This is a nice old Bridgestone 400 from the 80s. This poor kid had a handmade wheel built for it, new brakes and new fenders, and all this stuff. He spent a lot of money into this bike. I don't want this to stick him or cost $400 to get out. I'm hoping this takes me less than an hour. So I told him about $100 probably to get it out. Maybe two. I gotta pull a bunch of stuff off and burn that paint off. And maybe another 100 to run my to face and chaser and taps through. Clean out whatever's in there and make sure this thing's ready for the bottom bracket. Then he brought me his cranks and stuff too and wants a bottom bracket, so that's going to add another 50 or 60 bucks in labor, 30 or 40 bucks in parts. So this poor kid's going to have $2,000 into an old bike if we're not careful. We're trying to save money. Hopefully a few hundred more bucks solves this bike's problems, and then it's golden forever. So let's try this weird EVT tool. So this thing goes through the bottom bracket shell. Well, there's no bearings or anything in there. This guy threads on. know there's been some other versions of these over the years. Now the drive side is reverse thread. This is the non-drive side, so this should be righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we can't use this side. We're gonna put a big giant wrench on this side. It should tighten in and spin. We'll see. Let's crank this side down. Let's see if we can do something from this side. This is not how leverage works, but I'm gonna try it anyways. I want better leverage. I don't know what Specialized is going to try to help me out here. And did I just go the wrong way? Most likely. And the whole thing is just spinning. This isn't grabbing. Got another big wrench. See if we can hold it in place. Oh, and it's moving. I see that cup moving. Oh, ho, ho, ho. See me at all? Can you see me? And I gotta be honest with you, I'm pretty stoked about this. I've never had this tool work before. But everyone keeps telling me it does, and I just need to try it. I'm doing something wrong. So try it, we shall. Ho ho ho! Let's move by hand. Ha! Ha! 2.5 hours, they said. They couldn't get this out. But it's been soaking. You can see it's a little wet. It's muddy. It's rusty. It's been soaking in penetrating oil for a few days. If you ever read penetrating oil, it does say it needs 2 or 3 days to soak, not like 2 or 3 minutes. But this came out, this EVT tool. This tool's like 70 bucks. I guess I recommend it now. I guess first we should see if we can get it apart. I should just put this in the vise. Let's clamp and vise. I'm glad we started with this instead of die grinders, and cutters, and welders, and flame. Getting real serious. People always want to go right to real serious. 0 to 100. Thank you, EVT. Brett who does EVT is a really cool guy. His shop is nuts. He's got so many machine tools in there you can't even walk around, finish stuff. Manually machines everything. I used to have his headset press, it was the best. Wish I wouldn't have sold it. What else do I have? I have is that red arm I have in my stand. That's an EVT, it's the best. He's doing a sale right now. It's like a $500 that arm. I think it's doing like a 30 or 40% off sale or something. All right, that is out. There's definitely some galling in those threads. There's some burrs and stuff. I'm gonna run the taps through because that's just what you do to clean stuff out and make sure it's never gonna have that problem again. If I stuff a new bottom bracket in, it might freeze or seal or get all gunked up on there. So no. Real nice and clean. Cutting oil. Let's start some of this in here. Cutting oil is expensive, but it's real cheap compared to new taps. This one, I think my old one used to say right-handed or left-handed. This one sure looks left-handed to me. The drive side is reverse thread usually. Let's see. So the big old post, you can get the other one in too. This way they can guide each other in to make sure you're actually going in straight. That one started, this one is not. The one with the frozen cup is the less bad one. Cutting fluid is cheap. Taps are $700-800. I like I'm trying to go righty-tighty, even though I know it's the left-hand one. Yeah. I can hear it catching. I just want to make sure they're both going. So one's not going cockeyed or the one's not doing anything. Fine threads. And every turn or so, you always want to back a tap up to knock any of the stuff you're cutting out into these channels and away from the threads, so you're not getting burrs and metal bits and stuff cut into the threads and stuck in the threads and causing more problems than you're solving. I want these threads clean, not full of gravel and damage. I think this one's in all the way, or back it out. The other one going all the way, back it out. And normally I would face this too. I don't think it needs it. There's no damage, it's not warped. Unless there's a little damage on there from trying. Some burrs and stuff. I'm not going to face it because I'm going to put a sealed cartridge bottom bracket in, and they really don't need it. Unless there's damage. Old bikes, you needed them faced because the old cup and cones, they could get a little warped, not tighten right. So we'll see. I can see a couple little burrs, so maybe we'll face it. Take a close look. Save the kid $40, it doesn't need to be faced. Yeah. They both come out the same direction. You can see it's a little muddy, some metal and burrs in there. Put this back on just so the other side's unthreaded. This is a guide so it doesn't jack up and get crooked and mangle that first thread. The other side's muddy, it's a little metal too. It's not too bad. Gross. The rest of this mud and oil and any other burrs out of there. Should probably take a little wire brush too. This black one's ugly. Just to make sure you're not leaving any chunks of metal behind. They're going to gall into the new threads. Destroy it either. Oh, there's a big metal burr right there. I'm definitely going to face it. I haven't even got to use this facing tool yet on my kit. My old kit was a decade older than this. Similar spacers, things, springs, totally different cups. They all feel a little different. Their sharpness is all a little different. It totally changes how it works. We'll see.
Hello.
Oh, hi. How's it going? All right, got interrupted. My other appointment for today showed up, and it is this Claude Butler, which has one of the amazing distinctions of being the only bike that's been to all three of my shops now. You know, I had some like little home shops before, but he brought into Kenton Cycle Repair, and I think we put this Tongay fork, one inch threadless fork in, and Mickey headset, and we had a whole totally different, way cooler mutant stem on it. Looks like he switched it for an upright one. I think I put this VO Tourist bar on. It's one of my favorite bars ever. Bring it back, Fellow Orange, please. I tell you every time I see you. Bring back the classic Tourist bar. I love these Tektro levers, VO grips, he did all that. And he brought it into Northern Cycles when I was there. I added this pump peg for sure, and we did a pump. I probably put these TA cranks on, honestly, it looks like something I do. 4428 is my favorite size. Got the Velo orange bolts, which are a billion times better than those old TA bolts. So sure, it looks like something I did. I don't remember that part. But he has cracked the seat stay caps all the way through on both sides. So once I'm done with this bottom bracket, I am going to cut these tubes. I'm going to get some seat stay plugs. I have to measure the inside of these tubes and hope. There's only two common sizes for these now. I think it's like 12 mil and 14 mil or something. I think these are the smaller ones. I have this one set, but they're too short. This is the more long style, so I'm going to cut this tube off, square it off, fit one of these guys inside. This plug will fit inside the tube. And we'll braze that in and then braze this onto the lug. So we'll destroy all the paint. It's cool, Cloud Butler. He never did repaint it after this pump head. So we'll get a set of these guys brazed in, and then I'll get this rear hub aligned. I need to email him. He's going over stoke wheels right now. He's got some brand new rims, some old hubs. He's got a dynamo hub and a back hub. Should make sure he's gonna be running 130 spaced. Because this product cracked this. I think he had a 3-speed hub in there, and they're like 110. This thing's probably 126 from the factory, so he's pinching it 16 millimeters. That's gonna put enough tension up here to make these things break. This guy also does real tours and crazy miles on this bike. This bike looks like it's got 20,000 miles on it since last time I saw it. It is impressive. So I need to make sure what the rear hub spacing is and get this thing aligned on the alignment tail. I don't want to pull these cranks and all that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what it is. We'll see where it ends up. And I might put it on the alignment table, or maybe if it's real close, I might just give it the old check. So we'll see. I definitely have to go into Frame Builder Supply and order the right size of these once I cut this and figure it out. Get a matching pair and all that stuff. I don't really stock a lot of these caps because I don't really like to use them. These caps are like solid cast iron. I mean, they're kind of hollow. These ones are surprisingly light. I saw one there the other day. That's why I was excited and I bought one. I usually don't use these because they're usually just solid chunks of steel and they're heavier than the whole tube, and it's just adding so much weight to a bike. If you just put a little flat piece of metal as a cap, it weighs almost nothing. And I don't like adding weight to bikes unless it's really functional or really needed for heavy duty stuff. You see a lot of guys just add gimmicks all over stuff. Like, you just add a ½ pound of steel onto that 6-pound frame for gimmicks. It doesn't do anything, it just makes it heavier. Also, you know, try not to be a weight weenie. I'm a big heavy guy. There's no point being a weight weenie. But I swear I can feel it. But really I'm feeling the geometry. You feel the geometry more than you feel the actual weight of the bike. A heavy race bike is still going to feel lighter and snappier than, you know, a really super lightweight, raked out old mountain bike with crazy slow geometry and stuff. So, I don't know. Back to this guy. So it does have some nicks and burrs and tool marks. We're going to keep that bottom bracket from going all the way in flush. So we're going to face this side. This bike comes with, luckily, English 137 by 24 BSC, left and right. So it probably doesn't mean left and right side. It probably means left-handed, which would be the drive side. So this like cups into itself as a guide, so you hopefully can't get them in wrong. Theory, I'm doing this right. I've never used this one before, it could be all wrong. Righty loosey, so we gotta go the other way, You guys going in? Don't seem like you're doing much. Sometimes, like the park ones, these are so tight, this has to go all the way in, so the facer doesn't touch it. It's gotta go past that, so using this as a guide. And to go past that, and be able to face the outside face of this shell. This guy's little slots in it. There's probably like a little built into the tool. If I take the cutter off, it's 2 little nubs to turn these slots in. I don't want to take the cutter off. It's a bunch of work. This cutter looks like it has never been used. But you know, anything good. Putting some cutting oil all over it. Now we gotta use all these spacers and potions and lotions to space this thing out and get some tension on it. This thing has to have tension. It's got to be fairly tight without being too tight to be able to turn and cut without digging in. Loosen it up. It's too loose, it'll chatter and just do a bunch of little cut lines instead of just the one you want. You want it to be nice and smooth. Don't want to take off too much. Don't want to chatter. I bet you that is plenty. I'm going to back this thing up. Pull it off and take a look. That looks pretty smooth. See no chatter. It's barely even through the paint in some spots, and hopefully just took off any of those high spots. I don't know. I'm gonna give it one more shot. I don't want to pull this all the way apart and be all mad. No chatter. Also, this is the non-drive side. The cup doesn't even sit on the outside. What am I thinking? I don't know. I don't know. Just don't want any burrs that'll cause any problems. Some bottom brackets, I guess, do have cups on the outside. That looks smooth. Just took off a little bit of metal. I just shaved it all the way around the face, just like shaving your beard, just like kind of real close, not cutting too far. Away with the, you're not supposed to leave old metal on your cutters, it could cause them to rust or blah blah blah. The guys who wash these things and hang them up, I think have them sit in wet water is going to be worse than sit in all this used cutting fluid. It's going to get the big chunks of metal off, more or less. My old ones I never cleaned, but I just wiped them with a rag, knocking the chunks off. They sat on the wall. I owned those things for 10 years, they never got a speck of rust. Now I'm going to look at the other side. Just going to give it 1-2. It's a little rough. Instead of using the tool the right way, I'm just running my finger in here. Do the same thing. It's got a big spacer and a spring and a little spacer. Knurled guy, they're just going to add some tension. I don't know if this little one goes on that side or this side. We'll find out. Alright, I bet you that is plenty. Backing the spring off. It's nice and loose, just pushing my hand just a little bit in case there's a burr. Just got the high spots off. There's still a little paint and rust on there. A lot of guys think you need to get everything off, and they'll just cut millimeters in this bottom brush shell. This bottom brush shell is supposed to be 68 mil, not 65. That's going to cause problems, and they'll just destroy stuff. I just want it to be mostly flat. If it's 3/4 flat, means enough of the bottom bracket is going to sit flat against that cup. It's going to be cool. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny little bit of paint. Maybe it's 1/8 of a millimeter a low spot. Doesn't matter. Get rid of the burrs. Make it mostly flat, mostly straight. I have seen some kids really destroy some expensive brand new frames. By destroy, they're not destroyed, they're just fucked up. Your bottom bracket's not going to fit right, and probably won't stay tight. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, good.
Good.
I was looking, do you have a 10-inch masonry blade?
I don't do any mason stuff, so I don't have
Okay.
any mason stuff at all. No, sorry.
Alright.
The hardware store might. That was weird. Some random guy just walked up and asked me if I had a tool. I don't know if he's working in the neighborhood. I don't know if he works in one of the other businesses. He didn't introduce himself. It's asking for something weird. It's a weird life, man. Cool, cool, cool. No burrs, no metal shavings. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now this thing is faced and chased. My cutters cut big. They cut oversized slightly, or they just clear out all the rust and stuff. So this thing should be nice and open and loose. Should be able to have no problem getting bottom brackets in here. So that's the next thing. Been doing some rearranging. Got no room over here. Let's see what is happening. Here's his old cranks. Sakai Road Double. Here is his old bottom bracket. Yeah, you can see a spacer. One of the bottom brackets cup is frozen there before. There's spacers in or something. Come on, bud. Parts. Got dust caps. Got one damaged bearing. Who knows what the other bearing is? So I'm going to put the bearing in this cup. Put the spindle through. I didn't take it out, so I don't know which way it is. It's probably the shorter side. Probably. It's usually the shorter side. The long side is more of an offset to make the other crank come out just as far, even though it doesn't have the rings. Usually, sorta. Well, this side's the dead side, but that was the side that's frozen in the cup. I guess we look at the cup. That sure looks dirty and crusty and dead. This cup looks nice, so I'm going to actually say it's probably the other side, but I'm going to measure both just in case. It's a road double. I'm guessing it's a 1/16, but it could be anything. So I cover this in all my videos where I mess with bottom brackets, so I'm going to cover it again. It's not just the overall spindle length, it is also the jut from your drive side cup out to the end of the spindle. And there's also different tapers that matter for your crank. So this is old Japanese, it's Jefflin JIS. So I got the bearing in here so I get a pretty accurate measure of this jut. This jut is 28-ish millimeters. That's huge. And this overall is 128. No. Yeah, 128. That is huge. I don't know if that is right for this crank at all. I got a 118 here. Let's see what it says for the jut. This jut is like 22 almost. Is it worth sticking this 118 bottom bracket into this frame to see if this crank fits? Yes, because it's here. I don't want to go home. And also because I really don't believe this takes a giant white mountain bike bottom bracket. Whoever put the last one in might have done wrong. This looks pretty good. The crank's in nice and tight and close. I'll hold it up and see. Why would I trust her and worked on this before and have done it right? Yeah, this looks like exactly where it needs to be. I'm gonna go with this 118, bro. Got a big old fat scoop of grease. I'm gonna put it into this into this drive side. Get some grease up in there. This has the plastic cup, so I'm not gonna do the other side. If you ask 10 different mechanics 10 different questions, you're gonna get 10 different answers. But you really aren't supposed to grease these the other side for the plastic cup. I usually just say don't use the plastic cup at all. This plastic cup might have a crack. It definitely has a crack. We're not going to use it. Balls. So instead of a brand new in the box 115, that is the correct size for Shimano road cranks, vintage stuff from the 80s. It's only 1 millimeter narrower on the drive side. That's what I mean by jut. Jut's more important than the overall length. So we're going to try this. We're going to see if it works. If it does, great. If not, maybe I'll try and mix match that used 118 with this brand new cup, or wait till tomorrow and go home and actually bring my whole case of bottom bracket stuff down here. I keep just not doing. I had it out today. I was going to bring it, the whole case. But it's so sunny and nice. I want to ride my bike. I don't want 30 pounds of bottom brackets on the front of my bike. Because even though I have my car in the background of these videos all the time, I'm always bringing stuff. But man, it's sunny. It's like it's below freezing, but it's sunny. So I'm going to gently start this cup. These silver alloy cups, a lot of mechanics will tell you are actually plastic. You're not supposed to grease these either. I do not think that. I think these are some very weird cast aluminum machine thing. So I like to start this cup ever so gently, make sure it actually starts. It is so loosey-goosey. I'm only starting at a couple of threads. I'm not tightening down. There's still several millimeters here. I'm going to come to the other side as well. And this side is reversed, so it's righty-loosey. It's lefty-tighty. I'm gently supporting the spindle. These things are heavy. These threads are really shallow and really fine. It's really easy to get cockeyed. It's also scary since I just cleaned it. This thing goes in so easy. You're always used to old bottom bracket shells full of rust and dirt and junk. Here's a breaker bar with a bottom bracket tool on it. This guy in and tight. Nice and tight. Doesn't feel tight because the threads are so loose, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be nice. It looks good. Unbundle this chain now. Get it hanging over. Moment of truth, we're going to press these cranks on. We're going to take some looks, their eyeballs, we'll take some measurements. Same thing. Guys argue about whether to grease or not grease your spindles. I don't grease them heavily. They usually don't grease right from the factory, a little oily. I put a little tiny bit on, just a little. A thin film you can barely even see. And that is way too close. It's too close. It's got to come out a couple of millimeters. I'm just going to press on, so I want to come out like 4 or 5 millimeters. Alright, probably have to go home and find a 121 bottom bracket or something. Boo, boo, boo. I'll see if we can get this thing back out. I'll put it in so nice and tight. Oh! Tear my arm right off my body. Not slip and bang this nice brand new velvet orange fender. Okay, wow. Well, and at least I know I got it in tight. So this tool is kind of the same thing. It's the sealed cartridge bottom bracket tool. It's got this threaded rod, so it threads into that bottom bracket, so it will not slip in theory. I definitely made it slip. The stuff that was real frozen. It's threaded in. Sorry, Mr. Chain. Going back to this big wrench. There we go, broken free. Now a nice brand new bottom bracket doesn't look brand new anymore. It's real common at bike shops to see one in a dirty old box that's brand new, but you know, test fit or something. That's what they mean. Well, square taper stuff is a little subjective, a little loosey-goosey. Sometimes you gotta test fit a thing. So much for finishing this bike today. So much for finishing this video tonight. I mean, I'll get bored and ride home. Only get a little bit done on the next bike too. Order parts. Work on my own frame, but I'm in this mode. My hands are greasy. I don't like working on stuff I'm gonna braze on with greasy hands. Even if I wash them a couple times, I don't trust it. So I'll check back with you later if I run home or tomorrow. Okay, so I brought my giant tub of used and new and takeoff and whatever bottom brackets. And I went through and I measured 5 or 6 or 7 of them until I found one that I liked that had the right cup and didn't feel dead or have too many miles on it. It was several millimeters shorter, but it only ran like a millimeter shorter on the jut. But everything moved in like, I think so much, because the chain fell right off. But it's got the right kind of chain clearance in here. It clears the stays. It's all the right things. The other one was way too wide. This front derailleur was way too far out, so the chain just fell off. Then I realized this front derailleur was not hooked up right at all. The cable wasn't in the right spot. These pivots were all frozen solid. It looks bent to me, but it's a smaller ring. So I went ahead and actually oriented it where it's supposed to be and changed both limit screws dramatically and lubed the crap out of these pivots until it started working perfectly. And now, this bike, which absolutely no way in hell could have shifted before, shifts perfectly. Even the worn out derailleur looks bent. And I used the modern used crank bolts and I put dust caps back on. So this bike is set, it's solid, it's done. I definitely came in over budget, but he definitely asked me to do extra stuff. I told him a minimum of $100 to get that frozen cup out. I told him $100 for the face and chase, which it really did need, and he seemed like he was like, okay, whatever. He'd go, no, don't do it if you don't have to. He's like, yeah. And then I charged him $20 for the used Shimano steel cartridge bottom bracket. It's totally fine. And $50 for the install, which I always charge, because they're a pain sometimes to put 2 or 3 in. It takes forever. And I charged $15, I think, for moving and lubing and adjusting this front derailleur and making it actually shift and work. So now the bike's 100 times better than it's ever been, because clearly none of that is ever done correctly. It's got this brand new back wheel, and looks like it's got a chain. Whoever put the back wheel in, which is probably Brian Stoic, definitely set up the chain, and I checked the back, it shifts in all the gear ranges. This bike is nice as it can be for having $1,000 into an old lady's bike. But you know, sometimes you get a bike and you like it and you want it to work right, and you know, it's a lot easier to slowly part together and fix a cool vintage high-end steel frame. That's medium end, but medium end steel frames are way nicer than high-end aluminum frames now. So sometimes it's a lot easier. I do that on my bikes. I'll drop $100 in a part this week, and a couple of weeks drop another $100 in a part, or you know, whatever I can afford to slowly hoard the parts or do the work as I go. Because I don't have like $6,000 to spend on a bike all at once, but I could definitely drop a few hundred here and a few hundred there and make everything cool. So anyways, that is this video. Thanks for watching.